Alrighty, let's get going. I'd like to welcome you to the second edition of the SHS Cortex Live, today dedicated to the theme Locomotion. On behalf of the entire team at Swiss Healthcare Startups, I see my colleague Thomas, member and president of the board. I see Zita, Nora is behind the SHS logo. On behalf of the entire team, I'd like to extend a special welcome to our startup members and our institutional members of our association who support us in boosting the Swiss healthcare ecosystem. The goal of today's event is to provide a stage for our member startups, today 3, to present their work, receive feedback from an interdisciplinary jury, inspire the audience, and facilitate connections with interested partners. On that note, we would like to help you connect even after today's event. And we would like to do that by sending an email to all interested parties that are interested in connecting after the event. If you are one of these interested parties, please send us your name and email address using the Zoom chat function, either publicly or privately to Nora. If you do so during the event, you will receive that email that I mentioned before with the contact details of other participants interested in connecting, which might also be helpful if questions come up, topics come up that we cannot fully address during the event today. A few housekeeping items. Today's event is going to last 1 hour. We will finish sharply by 1 p.m. The event language, as you might guess, is English, because we want to make sure we all get to communicate, having representatives from all over Switzerland with us today. We also invite you, and most of you already do so, to keep your camera on, even if you're having lunch. We think it's a nice way of being able to connect also visually during these times where connecting is rather difficult. Last but not least, today's event is recorded. I want you to know that. And today's event can be viewed and shared via our YouTube channel online. All right. I'd now like to introduce you to our interdisciplinary jury, to Yvonne, to Özlem, and to Dorian. Yvonne Bauer is Manager Innovation and Venturing at Sanitas. Sanitas is an institutional member of Swiss Healthcare Startups and has been for over a year now. Özlem Tetik is the Head of Marketing, Pharmacy and Omnichannel Marketing Switzerland and Austria at Viatris. Viatris is also an institutional member of Swiss Healthcare Startups and the new company that resulted from the combination of the Upjohn Pfizer business with Mylan. Dorian is a known face to the ones that joined us on March 10th already. Dorian Ebneter, CEO at BV4, venture intelligence boutique, independent expert in startup scouting, assessment and valuation, and also a valued member of Swiss Healthcare Startups. Please, the 3 of you, introduce yourself quickly, more precisely than I did, starting with Yvonne. I see that you're already unmuted.
Yeah, thank you. I was testing if everything works, so never sure these days. So thanks a lot for the introduction. As Olivia said, my name is Yvonne Bauer. I'm working for Sanitas Health Insurance since 2 years now. I'm actually here with my colleague, Birte. She's also we're working in the same team. What we're doing these days mainly is we're focusing on the screening and venturing part. So we're really looking forward to hear what you're pitching today and which solution you're going to present to us. And if you have any further questions, feel free to contact me via my email or LinkedIn.
Thank you, Yvonne. Özlem.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan, and thank you, Olivia, for the nice introduction. My name is Özlem Tetik. I had been working in Pfizer in the digital organization for a couple of years, and now I've moved to the Viatris company in a merger of Mylan and Upjohn business of Pfizer. Currently, I am responsible for pharmacy marketing and still the digital responsibility in the omnichannel team. What we are into it to understand the new way of communicating to physician pharmacists as well as providing patient solutions. So this is our one of the key priority in Viatris to find the healthcare not as it is today, but as it should be in the future. So looking forward to hearing great projects from the members. Thank you.
Thank you, Özlem. Dorian.
Thanks, Olivia. Thanks for having me again. Yes, as you mentioned, Olivia, I'm the CEO of B4. We, on one hand, support investors such as private and institutional investors like EIT Health, for example, in the field of scouting, assessing, and also valuing cases. Startup cases, on the other hand, we also support startups in the preparation of their fundraising, especially also the topic of the valuation, of course. And for selected ones, we also help them reaching out to investors.
Good. Thank you, Dorian. All right, so let's move on to the startups. Today, as I mentioned, we have 3 startups that act under the overarching theme of locomotion. Some of you, depending on your age, might be thinking of Kylie Minogue, and no, this is not what we're referring to. All 3 startups act under the theme of locomotion because they help patients increase and or better their motion. Autonomyo enables neurological patients with walking disorders to walk again. Lighthouse Tech seeks to improve the quality of life and well-being of the blind and the visually impaired by enhancing their ability to move about safely. And MyLeg develops a unique device that restores sensory feedback to amputees. Exciting. Startups, you are welcome to share your screen once it's your turn. As you know, you'll have 5 minutes max. I'll give you a brief sign when you're reaching the last minute, and I'll stop you at 5 minutes. And again, the goal is not necessarily to raise money, but to share the great work that you're doing. We'll start in the western part of Switzerland. Technically, this is where the startup is based, as I just learned. One of the co-founders is actually sitting in the beautiful Thurgau. We'll start with Fabian Bischoff and Almeric Ortlieb, both co-founders of Autonomyo, who will give us a short presentation of problem and solution. Fabian, I see you're ready to go. Your 5 minutes start now.
Super, thanks a lot for having us. My name is Fabian, part of Autonomyo, and I would like to tell you a little bit about our intelligent walking rehabilitation solution. Our goal, our vision is to give patients as much autonomy back as possible. And we do that for neurological patients. That's, for example, stroke patients, MS patients, people with neurological disorders of all kinds. And we do that by a combination of a wearable exoskeleton and a digital solution to it. Why do we do that? That's on the left-hand side how physical therapy is conducted here. In the example of a stroke patient, it's quite intensive work here with 2, sometimes with 3 physical therapists. The other version is with locomotion devices, like you see it on the right-hand side, quite bulky stationary devices that you won't bring into your home, for example. And a typical journey for a stroke patient, to stay with that example, after a few days in a hospital, if you're lucky, you get into a rehabilitation clinic. The Western world, 3 to 5 weeks on average, where you can stay with a dense program, lots of support, and many patients do have quite a steep progression curve in that time. Then they leave, get home. They have maybe once, twice a week a follow-up with a local physical therapist, and that curve flattens for many, many patients quite dramatically. Our aim is to have that curve of progress a lot longer, steep, and that plateau a lot later on in the progress by a lot more intensity of therapy with high quality therapy also in the time you leave that rehabilitation clinic, with 50% better autonomy after your recovery journey, and overall with decreased costs for the whole healthcare system. We do that, as said, with a exoskeleton device that helps you balancing. So the aim is that at some point you don't have any crutches or other aid to assist you with walking, but you can do that independently. It allows in all dimensions of motions, which is for exoskeletons something rather new, that you can not only walk, but do side steps, walking stairs, etc. And our device is full of sensors. That's because it's an assistive technology that picks up your brain intention, your muscular intention, and it assists only as much as you really need to fulfill a task, to do a step, for example. And it doesn't walk you by itself as devices like for paraplegics do. So it's assistive, it learns, it assists you in every step a little bit differently. So throughout the training that varies, but also throughout your progression curve that varies with each training session and with each step. And that comes with a digital solution, an app. Imagine a fitness app that helps you with training exercises, that helps you with motivation, with gaming dynamics, and that gives you feedback, provides you with feedback for each exercise, but also in the long run. Plus, it allows you to stay in touch with your physical therapist that can remotely accompany you on that journey. And when talking of us, Amalric is also
1
with
minute
me
left.
in the call. He's responsible for all technology parts. Florian is driving the digital development, and we just spun off of the APFL, but still have a team there of 4 people working on the exoskeleton. And we're currently in a clinical trial with the SHF, our first trial to really prove that it works and to gather evidence for our solution. And thanks for having us. I'm happy to take your questions and look forward to feedback.
Thank you so much, Fabian, for this insightful presentation, and good luck for the clinical trials. Big milestone. Dorian, may I pass the baton to you for your feedback and questions for Fabian?
Absolutely. First of all, amazing pitch deck. Really like the design as well. Then I have a question with regards to your go-to-market strategy. Who would be the customers who would pay for the solution, and maybe also how much would that cost in the end?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because that's something that's in the flow in different markets. We're looking into Sweden, where such solutions are getting part of reimbursement of health insurances, and in most markets it is not yet. So it's mainly the clinics we have to target first to get that, to bring the product into market. We estimate now a amount of 65,000 Swiss francs per device, aiming with bigger volume to decrease that amount. And we're looking into the DACH region, the Nordics and the Benelux countries, and to the US in a later stage.
Okay, thanks. Another question that I have, I know that you're still in the clinical trial. What do you expect as a result from it? What would be basically the outcome after undergoing such a therapy with this device?
You want to take that question, Amalric?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Orion, for the question. So we're right now just assessing like mostly the safety and the biological benefits of using the device. So better muscle activity, better motion. And in the long term, we need to demonstrate like how the rehabilitation process is going to be effective. Like you've seen the curve showing that, yeah, we provide this device at home after the journey at the clinics, and we have like 50% of still improvement in most of the cases. And that's something we want to demonstrate.
Okay, thanks. Interesting.
Cool. Thank you, Dorian. Yvonne, what is your feedback? What are your questions for Fabian and Amalric?
Thanks for the presentation. So I continue with a question from Dorian about the clinical trial. Is there one like prototype you're testing right now? And how can I imagine? Is this really a finished product, or is it a step-by-step testing? And are you testing it only with like stroke patients or a wider range? And the second question would be, I saw it's something you were like 3 months in a clinic, and then afterwards it should be quite a longer time at home. So what is the pricing model behind it? Would be something like a rental fee you pay and then you give it back, or do you have any idea about this journey?
Malric, you want to get started with the trial question, and I go on with the second part of it.
Yeah, sure. I get mostly the second part of it. What was the first part about the trials?
Do you have a finished prototype that you're testing?
Yeah, right.
Like one solution?
So basically, we have the first prototype. We are building the next iteration, and we will need a third iteration for going to the market. So we are planning to be on the market in 3 years with all the CE marking. So that's a bit our timeline.
And you're testing with stroke patients right now for the clinical trial?
So we are testing more broadly. We have MS patients, we have neuromuscular disease patients, and we will include stroke patients in the end. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Wow.
And the question in terms of business model depends a little bit how fast the different markets will adopt in reimbursement. The plan for now is that you can get started, you can get the fitting and getting used to that device in a clinic. The clinic has a range of such devices, and then when you go home, you take your individualized device at home and you pay a rental fee of around, we would need around 2,000 Swiss francs per month as a rental fee for the whole system, inclusive the digital solution for the training, etc., which is partly substituting the physical training sessions that you would have otherwise in that time period.
Okay, and if you give back the model, let's say after 12 months, do you go on with the therapy on the app by yourself, or is it always linked?
That's a good question. We haven't been so far in testing out in terms of therapy content and what would you do afterwards in terms of keep going without the device. That's actually something that's not yet on our scope of trying to find out how we can really gather evidence, etc. But it's a very interesting approach.
Okay,
where we
thanks.
don't really have answers yet, but lots of questions.
It's a bit early, yeah.
That'll change over time. Thank you, Yvonne. Now we'll move on to Özlem, and then we'll finish up with a question that has just been posted in the chat. Özlem.
Yeah, thank you for the great presentation, and it was a great solution. Hopefully best for your clinical trial results. In your business model, continuing to Dorian's question in the beginning for go-to-market model, do you have any customer assessments other than the clinic owners or the reimbursement authorities that you are already contacted for this device?
We have talked with patients, we have talked with clinicians, and we have talked with physical therapists. And the feedback overall in terms of the way you can assess that, other than really trying it out, which we start now with the clinical trials, is quite well. And the big hurdle is most of the time the reimbursement of such a device, because it still comes at quite a substantial cost. And that's the biggest hurdle we think we need to overcome, how we can make that solution as accessible as possible.
Yeah.
So in terms of feedback, yes, that's something desperately needed, but how can we really make that accessible?
Good. I agree with Yvonne's questions. In the future, when it's became in the home usage, that customer assessment will change as well.
All right, thank you, Özlem. A question from the audience, from Michael Twist from Fahart. Have you considered a MVP in a non-medical setting to generate revenue in a shorter term? Question for Fabian and Amalrik.
It's a great question, because medical use does take a lot of time. That's correct. We have looked into use with elderly people, and to use it not as a therapeutic device, but as an everyday device that keeps you with some muscular strength and training settings day for day, and have the feeling that the product is not yet mature enough to get there, but it's a thought that we keep in mind, and that we had, but we don't really have the best solution there yet to pass the medical use and to bypass it with a non-medical solution that would be faster on the market. If you have ideas, happy to connect.
All right. Thank you so much, Autonomyo, Fabian, Amalrik, and best of luck with Autonomyo in the future. We'll move on.
Thanks a lot for having us.
We'll move on to the always sunny Ticino, from where Franco Burlando, co-founder of Lighthouse Tech, joins us today. Franco, you're in Morbio Inferiore, close to Chiasso, as you told me, and with your 30 years of experience, you have founded Lighthouse Tech in November 2020 to help the blind or visually impaired to move around. This is your first set meeting, and very soon your first prototype is ready. Franco, I'll give you a sign as well when the last minute starts. Your 5 minutes start now. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Olivia, and thank you for having me. It's a great privilege, and it really is a great honor. We're here, we started with our team to develop this device a number of years ago, and the company was, or startup was recently founded. So very briefly, this is what 11 million people in Europe wake up to every morning. They are blind and visually impaired. As we all do, they all travel outside their homes for work, for leisure, for sport, and quite simply for their daily living. They rely primarily on the white cane for being able to do so, which is a great solution in detecting objects at ground level or at low line level. However, it is totally useless in detecting objects and protecting the user from the waist up. Physical hazards inhibit independent travel, with negative consequences on the well-being of the blind people and their sense of security and self-esteem. It is very easy to encounter yourself with an open window, the rear tail end of a truck, or a low-lying branch, with physical possibilities of actually being hurt. So we propose a solution that is that will enable them to be able to move with greater confidence in the outdoors. We embedded a sensor on the temple of an eyewear frame. The sensor scans the environment 3 meters in front and 120 degrees sideways corresponding roughly to the body width. Alerting the user by means of a soft vibration, directional vibration, on the left or on the right side of the cane. We miniaturized all the components to fit into a shell, including the rechargeable battery, which lasts for approximately 7 to 8 hours, the Bluetooth component, and the sensor. And this is waterproof. It's a rugged shell. It is waterproof and it is impact resistant. Plus, we added one extra feature, which is to make the module interchangeable. Now, this is especially important for two reasons. One, because of cost. If one of the component breaks, you don't need to change the whole unit, but you can simply replace either the frame or the module containing the electronics inside it. But secondly, this enables us to make a wearable device that is pretty. Now, remember, this is something that you put on your face. And one of the things that came up repeatedly in our meetings with the blind associations is that they want to look good. This is crucially important for their self-esteem and their general well-being. So we developed a line of fashion trendy frames to go along with our interchangeable module. Ours is a socially driven impact company. From the very inception, we actively engaged with the blind associations. They were part and parcel of our developing process. Thanks to an industry check, our work is validated by SUPSI, and we've had great support in the past 12 months from Fondazione Agire and Boldbrain and Uzi Startup. We are currently being incubated from Uzi Startup. This is our team, each one bringing home special skills to add to the overall project. We pursue good practices in our company. For example,
1 minute left, Franco.
Searching for materials in our supply chain with a low environmental impact. For example, plastic frames are traditionally made from acetate cellulose, which contains things which are not biodegradable. We're switching to degradable products. By making travel outside their home safer, we make a difference with our Lighthouse device, offering something which is impact resistant, efficient, waterproof, impact resistant, sleek and elegant. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Franco. Congrats.
Thank you.
And thank you for this interesting presentation. Özlem, would you like to start off with your feedback and questions for Franco?
Thank you, Franco. Thank you for the presentation. It was clear with the close collaboration with the patient associations, but I like to start with the similar question. How do you plan for your go-to-market model? Who will be the initial buyer for this product and what will be the cost?
The cost is contained. Right now, our cost structure puts a frame at roughly 450 Swiss francs. And the initial buyer will be initially our go-to-market strategy envisions targeting the end client itself, especially through the blind associations. We envision ourselves actively promoting the product at the level of the blind associations with which we already have a good relationship, particularly in Italy with the association in Mantova, and here in Ticino with Unitas in Tenero. So we are going to be selling this idea and this concept and actually testing the product with them very, very shortly.
All right, thank you, Özlem. Dorian, what feedback or questions do you have for Franco?
First of all, thanks, Franco, for the passionate presentation. I was wondering, what was the decision to use the white cane as a receptor, or was it also an idea to use the glasses directly to communicate with the blind people?
That's a great idea, and yes, we took that into account. Number of considerations. First, the white cane is something the blind person always uses when he's outside to show people that there is a visual impairment. So this is something that he is carrying already. We have considered, and one of the options is to put the vibration or the sound, we could also use sound, on the frame itself. We're using the sensor on one temple. We could as well use the sensor, the reflection, the vibration on either one of these temples, or we could use a sound. But for the time being, listening to what they had to tell us, we decided against it because blind people use their residual senses to scout the environment. So they don't want any distractions at the head level, vibrations or especially noises. And that's why for the time being, one of the initial options is to put it on the white cane itself.
Thanks. That's makes a lot of sense. When you said that you want to include it in the white canes, how is the market there? How many producers of such a device are we talking? How easy to integrate into these white canes?
Again, very good question. This is something that we considered as well, because initially we had thought of doing our own white cane, but there's no need to do that. There are 4 or 5 good companies out there in Europe and the United States and Canada that already provide excellent white canes. There's no reason we want to get into that market and complicate our lives. We want to keep it slim, simple, and focus on what we're providing. Our device will slip inside the top of the white cane, any white cane. So there is no, for the user, there's no need to adapt to a new cane, because all you need to do is slide this component on the top, and that's all that it does.
Thanks for your answers.
Thank you, Dorian. Yvonne, what's your feedback? What are your questions for Franco?
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the presentation. Giving the number at the beginning, it sounds like a really promising solution to me. I have one question, I didn't get it correctly. So the sensors of the glasses are connected with the ones from the white cane?
Yes.
And if so, yeah. And if so, are the sensors, from the glasses, can they only be integrated in your own glasses or also in different brands? And if not, how do you plan to scale the solution? And the second question would be, who is your biggest competitor on the market right now?
Okay, so first of all, yes, the sensor is on the frame, and it connects by Bluetooth to the cane. We wanted to make something that is extremely sturdy, because now that we talk about competitors, there's nothing like our product in the market right now. Usually they combine the sensor and the receptor on the white cane, and it makes for a big white cane, which is heavy, it's bulky, and it's difficult to maneuver, especially because ergonomically, they need to hold the cane in an abnormal position. So it makes it very tiring for them. So there really is no direct competition to what we do. There are 3 or 4 other companies that do what I just told you, everything included in the white cane. The market penetration of such companies has been very low, because I believe that the product is not properly thought through. The way we do it, by minimizing everything, by making it invisible, by adding a collection of nice frames, it makes it so much more applicable to open up the market. We intend to scale by selling to distributors worldwide, and by selling, you brought up a very good point, which is by selling to manufacturers, eyeglass and sunglass manufacturers. In fact, that's the industry that I come from. I've been working for 30 years in that industry, and we are in contact with fashion brains, multinational corporations located in north of Italy. And what we're trying to do is to scale up with them by selling to them the component only. In other words, you can buy a Gucci frame, and with our equipment, they need to obviously modify the product, but they can adapt our module to their Gucci, Ferragamo, whatever it is. So that's how we intend to scale up.
Okay, thanks.
Interesting. Thank you, Yvonne. Franco, we have another question from Mikhail from Fahart again through the chat. He's asking, Adaption-wise, I see a typical issue similar to virtually all wearables. Why not use a low power consumption technique for signaling to the white cane? And he's adding, battery life seems a sensitive requirement in the market.
Our product is unique in other ways from our competition, which, as I said before, it's not large, it's a small competition. Our product uses TOF technology, which is basically light technology, versus the competition that uses ultrasound. True, we require more energy. True, absolutely correct. That is one of the challenges that we're being faced with right now. But unlike ultrasound, TOF allows us, remember in my presentation, there's a slide that says that we can detect the object on the left or on the right. Now, this is crucial. Current competitive devices simply indicate the presence of an object by means of a beep. We are telling the consumer, the user, if it's on the left or on the right. And we think that is extremely important, even though it will require a bit more energy. By utilizing one frame per second right now, we feel that we can juice up approximately 7 hours of battery life. We're working on it. It is a major consideration. Remember, we're inserting the battery in a very, very thin temple. So there's a whole bunch of trade-offs, but we think that this trade-off is also important because it makes for a nice, beautiful frame.
Thanks for that answer, Franco. And with that, we'll move to the next startup. Before doing so, I want to thank you, Franco, and wish you the very best with Lighthouse Tech.
Thank you, Olivia.
We reached the German-speaking part of Switzerland with Giacomo Valle, co-founder and CEO of MyLeg based in Zurich. Giacomo, I'll give you a quick sign when you reach the last minute. Your 5 minutes start now.
Yeah, I'll share my screen immediately. Okay, do you see my screen? Yes, I imagine. So imagine you're walking and you step on an obstacle. In that moment, you can feel your foot. You can feel the position of your leg, and you can counteract that event, avoiding the fall. But if you're an amputee, you don't perceive any sensation for your prosthetic device. So you're not able to react at that event, and you probably fall with high risk of damage. This is what happens if you're a lower limb amputee. Now I'm going to tell you how to change the quality of life of people with leg amputation. Using MyLeg, the first non-invasive device able to provide sensory feedback in people with leg amputation. As I said, this type of patients are suffering this high risk of falls that cost up to 40,000 euros per patient per fall. Moreover, the lack of feedback is one of the causes of asymmetric walking, reduced mobility, and increased fatigue that creates long-term medical problems in this type of patients that cost up to 250,000 euros per patient. Finally, if you think to have a limb without sensation, you don't perceive this limb as part of your body, right? But more an external object. So you experience this low prosthesis integration that have an impact on the prosthesis abandonment. We reduce revenues for prosthesis manufacturers. Our solution is MyLeg. MyLeg is a wearable robotic device composed by a sensorized insole with pressure position sensors that we can read in real time during walking. Then we send this information via Bluetooth to a microcontroller, and this microcontroller transfers this information in electrical stimulation of the stump of the patient using surface electrodes. In this way, the patient is able, while walking, to perceive in real time the interaction and the pressure events and the movement of the prosthetic device and the interactions with the environment, improving the ability of walking. Indeed, this is not science fiction, but this is a reality. So we already tested the system with patients, demonstrating that this technology and the sensory feedback restoration is something that is really useful for the patient to improve mobility, to decrease fatigue, mental fatigue and physical fatigue. And we recently tested the device also in activity of daily living in a Cyberline competition, and in which our pilot, here you can see Stefan, that is climbing the stairs using our device, and demonstrating that our technology can be exploitable in activity of daily living. The global prosthetic market is around 1.2 billion in 2019, the estimation, with 4.8 million leg amputees, only Europe and US. And this is, for example, a conservative market that we can target with MyLeg. So we can sell the device that can be useful for patients, improving the quality of life, to prosthetic manufacturer that can increase the revenue, and for healthcare system and insurances, we can decrease the cost. There are no sensory feedback device available on the market. Now there are other companies or startups that are developing similar sensory feedback device, but mostly invasive. So the technology needs a surgery that is not a good option for an amputee. And it's always a prosthesis with sensor, and our device is an add-on for any commercial prosthetic device. We have a business model composed by B2B, so we can sell the device to prosthetic manufacturers that then can sell the device to patients, or they directly sell the device to patients that can be then reimbursed by the insurances.
1 minute left.
Yeah, we are the right team because we know people with amputation, so we know what they need, and we are highly motivated to change the quality of life of people with disability. We have a clear roadmap to arrive to the market. We are now at the year of a proof of concept, and also a financial plan to arrive to the market in 3 years. We have the contact with clinics, patients, and prosthetic manufacturers. And now we are searching for funding and set up in the clinical trial. I want to thank you for the attention, invite you to watch Cyberton 2020, our performance, and then where we won the silver medal. Thank you very much.
Congrats, Giacomo. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. Yvonne, would you like to start with your feedback and questions for Giacomo?
Sure, thank you. Thanks a lot also for the presentation. I liked a lot that usually when I see this kind of presentation, it's more focused on a specific group. So either more sporty people or like specific problems in elderly people. So what I can see here is like the real journey. So no matter if it's sporty or elderly or younger people. So I see the wide range already. I like that a lot. My question would be, so first you said B2B to C. Do you have already a B2B partner you can do a clinical trial on?
Yes, so I come back to the business model. So yes, as I said before, we have a first channel for selling MyLeg to prosthetic manufacturers. We have the contact with Osur, that is one of the most important company in the world on prosthetics, and we work together with invasive technology in a previous clinical trial, and they suggest also, we discuss together that what is the necessary something non-invasive. So this is where also the MyLeg came from, and so we in particular what we have is a really good clinical partners that can prescribe, and also for our clinical trial for the certification can help us to recruit patients and to test MyLeg in different clinics in Europe. Okay. The second channel is the B2C. Of course, this is really dependent also for the country because of the reimbursement, but we have in mind some country that can be the best to start. For example, Germany. Yeah.
So from a geographical footprint, you focus on Europe.
Yeah, exactly. We start from Europe for the logistic and also for the opportunities that we have, but we are also targeting the US market because they have, for two reasons. Firstly, because they have a lot of amputees, leg amputees, and secondly, because they have particular insurances that are for veterans or for army. They cover advanced device, a more advanced device to patients. So this can be really useful for us, in particular, in order that the patient can have the reimbursement then.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Özlem, will you continue?
Yes, thank you, Ivan. It is also great to see the real examples from the patients. So to understand the patient journey a bit more, when and who make the decision of which the leg device will be chosen in the newly amputated patient, or you mentioned that your competitor has required a surgery to switch them. Is it that common in the market to switch one leg option to the another one? So
yes, so for the first question, what we need is, so immediately after the amputation, the patient has to stay some months, sometimes also a year, in the clinics, together with orthotechnicians and orthopedicists to fit a correct prosthesis and to learn how to walk with a prosthetic device. So we envision that MyLeg can enter immediately there. So the patient in particular that are struggling or they are training and they are learning how to work with a prosthesis with our device can shorter the time that they need to arrive to work better. So it's a kind of, at the beginning, a rehabilitation tool that can be used to shorter the time that the patient has to spend in the clinic learning how to walk, and then can use then at home to continue to have a feedback and have a higher mobility also in daily life. We have also another type of patients that are as I cited before, the most advanced prosthetic users, that they like to have the most advanced and the Ferrari of prosthesis, so with feedback, with control, and also their patients in particular, they are very interested in our device. Indeed, we tested with 5 patients that were using a really advanced prosthesis. So this is the first. For the competitors, yes, there are these competitors that are implanting electrodes in the nerves, in particular to treat pain, but also to provide sensory feedback. What we are doing now is trying to demonstrate all the efficacy and the effectiveness of MyLeg with non-invasive technology that can have this similar benefit compared to the invasive approach. And exactly one of the problems of the company is the feedback of the patient that has to do a second surgery is always not really happy, to do that. Only in case that the patient has really strong pain. So in that case, the patient is happy also to have a surgery to remove that pain, but not for sensory feedback.
Which of these 2 different types of target group will be your first decision to?
Yeah, our first decision is the patient immediately amputated. So at the beginning, because there are more, and also because if we observe benefit in people very expert that they already work better, we think that our device can have a bigger margin with people that are really need some feedback to work better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Özlem. Dorian, will you wrap up the feedback and question session for Giacomo from MyLeg?
Sure. Hi, Giacomo.
Hi.
I was wondering, in terms of milestones to bring your product to market, what is relevant here? Do you need to undergo clinical trials? Can you elaborate on this, please?
Yes, maybe I can share again 1 second so I can give you the overview of our plan. Exactly, this one. So we plan to arrive to the market in 3 years, and we divided our work in our group, and we are working from one side for the development manufacturing, because we finalized the prototype and we have the first version, but we need to test the device mechanically, electrically, to arrive at the final, freeze the device before the clinical trial. Then we have the partners for the clinical trials in which we think for now to demonstrate something for the certification, in particular starting from the mobility and the safeness of the device. And then we have this regulatory that we plan to have the CE mark at the end of this 3 years roadmap, and then start to sell the device. So we have the development and manufacturers, verification and validation, and clinical trial.
Okay.
These are the next, yeah.
What about the IP of your solution? What do you protect, and how is also ETH, or was it EPFL, sorry, ETH involved in it?
Yes, exactly. So we are writing now the patent. So we plan to submit the patent in the next month, and is in particular about the technology that we are using in the stimulation. As I said, MyLeg is composed by sensors and the Bluetooth, and then an upper part with a converter and the stimulation side. So we are patenting exactly the upper part, the particular electrode placement and the stimulation strategy. So yes, this is the plan that we have. Of course, since is a work that we are doing at ETH. ETH is also we are working with ETH transfer office, so we know that they can help you, and it's something that we are still not do the deal with them, for the patent, but we know that ETH already supported a lot of different spin-off, and is an important and mandatory step for us at the moment.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you, Dorian. Giacomo, I saw on one of your slides that CITEM is a partner of yours. A brief side note, we will be hosting our flagship event if the situation develops the way that we wish. The Digital Health Day on the 27th of October this year at CITEM in Bern. So for everyone, mark your calendars, and who knows, maybe we'll get to see a prototype of MyLeg at that occasion at CITEM in Bern.
Absolutely, yeah.
Also, Giacomo, before you joined, your startup colleague Fabian Bischoff and Amalric Ortlieb, they presented their exoskeleton solution they're developing with Autonomyo. Fabian, Amalric, spontaneously, do you have any thoughts, any feedback, since you're both trying to help patients move again in the Swiss healthcare ecosystem as well as globally eventually?
Yeah, I think it's good that we are now in touch and have better understanding of the technology of each other. I think we evolve in topics that are quite similar. For example, the Cyberline is an event that we kind of share with different things. I have one question for Giacomo. Would it be possible for your technology that you don't do the full prosthesis, but you would just support with your soles, with the force reaction sensors, and just the feedback?
Yes, exactly. It can be indeed. There are also another version that we are testing now to expand the applicability of the device that can be used with people with not a prosthesis, but with neuropathy, for example, or sensory loss. So with the leg, but with the lack of feedback, maybe nerve injury. So because we just need to apply the sensors under the foot, and we can stimulate proximately to the lesion where the system is still healthy, and use the same type of feedback. Yeah.
Nice. And have you thought about having electrode stimulation or EMG recording that could help understanding better the actions of the motion and the muscle activity?
In research, yes. For the business, not really, because we don't want to complicate and make the cost of the device too high, and also really flexible and versatile for every type of prosthesis. And so we try to make the cost also not so high, around the cost of an iPhone, to be an add-on. So if you add too many things, and this cannot be maintained anymore. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, with the peer-to-peer startup exchange, we're coming close to the end of today's event. Giacomo, thank you very much for your presentation, and best of luck for MyLeg from my side as well. I want to invite all participants of today's event again to share your name and email address using the chat function in case you're interested in continuing the dialogue and you want us to help facilitate that connection. A big thank you at this point, first of all, to our jury, Dorian, Yvonne, Özlem. It was great having you. Thanks again for our startups, Franco, Fabian, Amalric, and Giacomo. Very inspiring presentations. Congrats again. We're glad to have you on board with Swiss Healthcare Startups. A big thank you also to the interested audience, our partners, and other interested stakeholders. I'd like to invite all of you to mark your calendars for the next edition of our SHS Cortex Live, taking place May 19, same time over lunch again via Zoom. Also, as always, please share your feedback. We don't have time now. Please do so offline. Share your feedback and thoughts about today's event directly with me. My email address is olivia@swisshealthcarestartups.com. We are striving to continuously improve our offering to our startups, to the entire Swiss healthcare ecosystem. With that, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe and healthy, and hope to see you on May 19th.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Tschüss.
Ciao.